Hello everyone and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we're taking a look at the DX Saikyo Girade from Kamen Rider Go. This is the new sword he gets with his Kamen Rider Go2 form, featured very prominently here on the right side of the box. It's kind of a dinky blade with a comically large Geo head in the center, which does come off so you can also connect it to your G-Con Girade. We'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, this is the front of the packaging. On the side over here, we have a nice picture of Go2. On this side, it's just kind of extending the main picture and another pic of the sword. Picture of the sword down there, turning it around. Just more giant Geo heads. So yeah, batteries are included because there are actually no electronics in the blade itself. They're all in the giant Geo heads. So it does come with two LR44 batteries and nothing else is needed. Let's go ahead, we'll get this thing out of the box and we'll take a closer look. So these are the two pieces you get in the box. You have the blade itself, you have the ridiculously giant Geo head. I really don't know why this thing is so massive. Here's the speaker. You have some buttons here on the side. Now you can see it kind of looks like a ride watch. Has the button on the side. But because of the way this is, you can't actually slide it on the driver. And these two pieces here make it impossible to connect to the Beyond driver. So unfortunately, it will not connect anywhere but the two swords. But it is a crazy, giant, goofy Geo head. This dial on the side almost looks like it can move, but it can't. I mean, it's nicely painted. You know, all the fancy kind of metallic plastic that's on the outside. You have the sparkly plastic here for the antenna, nice silver there, magenta painted, very nice. So yeah, we'll get into this more in a minute. Yeah, you're making all kinds of sounds. Settle down over there. Here is the blade itself. Like I said, there are no electronics in this. It does have a trigger, but all you can see, all that does is move that little pink button there, because it's going to basically just hit the underside of the giant head. Here's where it can connect to the other sword. We'll get there in a minute. You have some of that same sparkly translucent plastic here on the end as well in the blade. Very soft plastic. And this thing is pretty short. Even shorter than most swords, I would say. But you have some nice gold paint here on the front. Yeah, it's very basic. It's very tiny and it doesn't really do much on its own. When you take the giant Geo head, alright, you go ahead and you connect it on. How this has to work, because of these giant pieces here and here, you have to kind of pop this on at an angle and then you turn it. And then it clicks into place. And it's just so big. I don't understand. It looks so ridiculous on this tiny little sword, but if you hit the trigger, some generic slashing sounds. If you hit this, pull this lever up, it plays this music. Hit the trigger, so you get kind of a final attack there. And now after the attack, if you stay in this mode, the slashing sound is different. And you can see here where before it said Rider, it now says Go Saikyo. It does still use the I in the center here. So it says Go Saikyo, basically Geo finish or final. Yeah, so that's it for that. If you change it back to Rider, it just says Rider again. Goes back to the normal sounds, but if you do it really fast, you'll get the music again. And then you get a slightly different final attack sound. and you're back to the slash. So basically, you have a final attack for both versions and a different slashing sound for both versions. And that's kind of it. That's kind of all there is for this thing on its own. If you take this off, again, slide it, pull it off, and you just kind of mess with the buttons back here. So you can see, and some of those are going to come into play more in a minute when we get to the other sword. But there's really not too much to do with this thing on its own without the blade, other than just kind of... And then if you want it to stop without being connected, you can just hit one of the buttons on the back. So again, there's really not too much to do with this thing on its own, but when you have it connected to the sword, the buttons allow it to hit the right tabs and buttons and everything to get those finishers out of it. So I don't know, to me it's a little bit of a disappointment. You're basically getting 2 final attack sounds and 2 slashing sounds. I know that we've gotten some other swords in the past, roleplay weapons, that have been kind of just as lackluster, but I don't know, it's just not really that exciting to me. But let's go ahead, we'll bring in the Girade. Connecting these two is very simple. You take the sword and those little pieces I showed you underneath there. You just pull this back when you want to remove it, but those are the little grips that will grip into these little spots on the sword here. These little kind of empty indentations. So you just take this, clip it right on there, and boom, it's connected. So here is the blade. And I kind of like it because it makes the blade a little bit longer than it was. And I always feel like roleplay swords are just shorter than they should be. They always look kind of dinky. So I kind of appreciate the extra length. I just think it looks better as a sword. Now it is ridiculously wide. So it's kind of like a letter A. But I think it's decent. You can leave the head connected here if you like. But then you would still need to use the trigger up here to activate it. Having this connected does not change the sounds of the Girade at all. Doesn't do anything like that. But you can go ahead and take the giant head and now connect it into this part instead. So if you connect it when it says rider, it just says rider and then gives you the sound that the sword normally makes. So we'll go ahead and take this off. And then we'll go ahead and switch it to Saikyo. So that's kind of neat. You can hear there when I connect it as Saikyo, it actually plays some standby music that kind of complements the standby music of the sword itself. So they kind of go well together. And then it says King instead of Rider. And then it plays a sound effect that kind of matches the final attack sound effect of the sword. So I feel like, again, those two sound effects complement each other. So I think that's kind of cool. Again, if you wanted to go ahead and put this in here and then put like a different ride watch connected in the normal spot, you could, but you would just get the two sounds of both things happening at the same time and just kind of sounds like a garbled mess. This is actually meant to work together and it actually sounds kind of cool. I still think having that giant head connected to the side of your blade looks a little goofy, but I do think that the sounds it produces are pretty cool. One thing I did want to show quick before I wrap up, it is possible to connect this thing to the gun mode as well. You can see here that the gun mode has the same little connection spots that the sword does. So you just go ahead and pop that on there. And if you want to give your gun one crazy long bayonet, you certainly can. So at the end of the day, I have to say this thing is just kind of alright. I do like the sound effects it makes when you connect it to the Girade, but that of course does necessitate that you do have the Girade, and I know a couple people passed on that because it didn't come with a ride watch. So if you don't have that, I would say the functionality you would get with this on its own is limited. The main reason I bought it is because I really do like the combined form with the Jikan Girade. I think it really beefs up the sword and makes it look like a substantial size like roleplay weapon, not the super dinky swords that we're used to. I just really think the giant head looks goofy. If they would have just shrank that down a little bit and made it just a little bit kind of in proportion with some of the other things, I don't know. Again, it's not a big complaint. To me, it just makes it look comical. And I mean, I know this is a show for kids, but if you try to pretend that it's somewhat realistic as far as what these weapons and things look like, it just makes it look so ridiculously goofy to have that giant head on the side of the thing. I know it's a tall order to try to take this stuff seriously, and I'm not really doing it, but I just think it looks overly goofy. Even more so goofy than we're used to, or that we usually let slide, if that makes any sense. Like I said, the toy on its own, the sword has no electronics in it. It's just the giant head. So you're getting 2 finishing sounds and 2 slashing sounds from the giant head when it's connected to the sword. The head on its own really doesn't make that much in the way of jingles or sounds. I mean, you can switch back and forth with the lever on the side and it'll play that standby jingle, but that's kind of all that can do on its own. Like I said, to me, the most fun is connecting it to the Jikan Girade. I think it looks cool. I like the king sound effect, all the music that plays, the final attack sounds there are kind of neat. But if you really don't, like if you're on a budget, I would say this one's an easy pass. It doesn't do a ton. It certainly doesn't come with its own ride watch, so they didn't pack anything in that makes you have to pick this up. Especially if you've already passed on the Jikan Girade, I would say go ahead and just pass on this as well, because I really think you need the other toy to unlock this thing's full potential, and if you don't already have that, you don't need this. Obviously, you're okay with not having the sword roleplay weapons. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thank you so much for watching.